Welcome back to the lab. Bit overcast out there. Not supposed to rain this weekend. Taupo, Bruce McLaren Motorsport Park for round, I guess, I don't know, what do you call it, 1.5 of New Zealand Super Lap Series, the actual first round. It is now spitting. The actual first round didn't go ahead for reasons, so this is technically the second round, but actually the first round. I was just about to go and put this on the trailer. There's no urgency. Holy, it's a bit darker up there. So that can wait. I'll have lunch first. As you can see, it's sitting on scales. 1,236 kgs with full fuel and no driver. And I think it was actually slightly nose heavy. I forgot to pay attention to that. There is a picture. I will slap it in here. Second picture is with me on board. We were, it's like, I think it was something like 30 kgs heavy on this corner, but everything else was all good. So I was going to do a balance and adjust the shocks, but I'll just leave it at that. That's actually not bad. That will be fine. As the fuel gets used, because the tank is kind of there, it's going to lighten up on this corner and it's going to be a little bit heavy on the driver's side, and you just can't do much about that. I could shift the engine this way a tiny little bit, maybe shift the front diff, and then you get different lengths on your drive shafts, and then you get torque steer and all that. So meh, it's fine the way it is. Let's go to Taupo. Rightio, back home. I'll keep this brief because I'm on a mission. If it's going to work out, it may not work out, and if that's the case, then it'll be a very cruisy afternoon at a certain point. Take a look at the back of the car. Take a look at the back of that. See all that? That's antifreeze. The cheap, nasty aftermarket pulley that had been modified decided to leave the chat. Nothing to do with the modification. And that has gone, I'm assuming, we need to find it, it's gone that way at 1,000,000 miles an hour, hit the thermostat housing and broken it, and all the antifreeze fell out of the engine. So yeah, I thought initially that could have potentially been fire. I couldn't smell anything. Couldn't smell if it was antifreeze or oil, but there was a lot of haze in the engine bay. But it's just antifreeze. So here's the pulley here. Here's where I modified the pulley from the outside there. I mean, it's not the sexiest welding in the world, and it's failed on the inside there. It's nothing to do with what I did, in my opinion. I'm sure others will argue it went like that for years. It's when I put the new alternator on, I did add a little bit of tension to the belt, and it must have been too much for it. The extra load from the big alternator and the belt being a bit tighter, and it's just chat its pants and given up. So let's see if we can fix this. It's only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so we can get this done today maybe and get back to Taupo tomorrow. Well, I'm afraid the news is all bad. The pulley definitely hit the thermostat housing. There are little marks on the silicone hose from the impact. Do you care about the lighting? You don't care about the lighting. And it's given the thermostat housing a twang. Monday afternoon. The March is fixed. Pretty sure it's fixed. We'll have to run it to find that out for sure. My conclusion is somewhat similar to the demise of the Air France Concorde that crashed, in that it's to do with fluids and impacts and stuff, and you can punch something somewhere and it causes an issue somewhere else. And that's exactly, I think, what has gone on here. There's the new pulley in there. Doesn't look as cool as the other one did, to be honest, I think, but whatever. So at the racetrack, we knew that the pulley had failed, because the pulley was sitting down there like that, or thereabouts, actually pretty much there, with the belt down there with it. So we knew that had happened. Kaboom, that's come off. And I can see from the logs that our water temperature was sort of doing this and it was okay, and then the voltage down another chart goes down to whatever it was, 12 volts or whatever. Water temp sort of stays there for a bit and then starts going, and it went very high very quickly. So we knew that this coming off 100% had something to do with our issue with our cooling system, and there was a leak in there somewhere. I thought initially, and we spent quite a lot of time, some of the guys helped me, thank you to those people, they know who they are, Bruce and all them, looking around trying to figure out what this has hit in here that has caused a water leak in there somewhere that we could not see. No matter what we did, we couldn't actually see exactly where the water was coming out. We were filling it up at the track and it was absolutely hosing out, so it had to be a pretty big hole. It wasn't just a little wee tiny crack. It was something significant, right? Even here at home trying to diagnose it, just couldn't see or find anything. I got the took this out of the way, got the thermostat housing out, had a look at that, it was fine, put it all back together. It was still leaking. It was very bloody confusing. So then I looked even harder. I took that massive torque brace off, torque plate, whatever, behind the intercooler there. Took the thermostat housing off and started looking around, and flummoxed. Did not know, could not figure it out. Where is all this flipping water coming from? It just gushes out, like you just pour it in the front in the radiator, like a kitchen tap going at about half speed, and coming out of the engine just as quick. It was hosing out. So they have a hole in the I'm trying to, I can't really show you because it's behind the intercooler. They have a hole in the timing belt covers, timing chain covers. So I got torch and mirror, had a look in there, and there's a flipping frost plug sitting in the valley, just chilling out. What's that doing there? And I went over to my spare engine block and I had a look around on that. They don't even have frost plugs. What's going on here? And then so I looked at some pictures on the internet. Oh, they do have frost plugs. That's definitely not something that's been kicking around in my workshop and it's wound up inside my motor and my race car somehow. It's never happened, but... So, okay, so where's the frost plug come from? Get torch. Aha! And so my conclusion is, the pulley comes off. It's there, it's going... Which way does the engine go? Oh, the engine goes that way, I think. At 1,000,000 billion, it came off at 5,200 and something RPM, I think. It can't go that way because there's diff in the way. It can't go that way because there's an under tray. You'll see some marks there. It did try and go that way. It can't go that way because there's other stuff and things. It came out this way. It hit this with enough force that sent a shockwave into the cooling system and popped the frost plug out of the head. What a dick move. And if you don't believe me, I could demonstrate it, but if I squeeze on that, you can hear that go. I don't know if you can hear it, I can hear it. That rummages right through the whole, rampages right through the whole cooling system. Because water is incompressible, save for a black hole and things like that. If you put a tube of water, that's how hydraulics work. So basically you give it a massive big smack with something. I don't know what that pulley weighs and how fast it was moving, but it must have been going for it. and it put enough shock into it, and that's what popped out the frost plug. The next trick was putting the frost plug back in. It's back in there. I've pressure tested it to 20 psi and it's not come back out. The radiator cap is 14 psi, I think, or it might be let's go have a look. Might be 1.2 bar. Is it 1.2 or 1.1? 1.1. Let's call it 16 psi. So at 16 psi, the fluid's supposed to come out of that by, past the valve and start filling up the reservoir there. That, by the way, has a breather that comes out here, and we've seen this with head gaskets on this car before in the past. It will blow out past the radiator cap and start filling up this reservoir, and then overflows, and then it's a big mess, right? So I put the breather to here. So if we have that problem, it overflows out here. I see it streaming up the corner of the windscreen and go, Glenn, massive problem, time to stop. We did not see that. That did not happen. And in fact, the coolant reservoir was at a lower level than what it had been to start with. So it didn't do that. It didn't pressurize the system via a tune or whatever and blow past the head gaskets, in my opinion, at this point in time. It may change once we test it later on. It's simply just a freak kind of thing where the pulley's given it a smack and has blown a frost plug out, and that's the end of your weekend. It happens. Hey, those bypasses on the way down to Taupo were shite. That used a lot of petrol in the ute, and I wasn't that keen to go back on Sunday anyway, to be honest. It's stuffed our season. If they're doing it with points for each day, we're done, because there's only 4 days of a season. We've lost all the points for a day. We started off with, we won the first day, so whatever that is, 76 points or something. But, someone who's come fourth every single round can probably still beat us from there. So, that's how it goes. Never mind. That's why I was a bit anti that sort of system. Superlap should be fast cars, not reliable cars. Who gives a shit if it breaks at the end of the day? That's if you want reliable cars, go and race in production race series or something else, but you want fast cars. That's what Superlap is supposed to be about. Time attack has always been what it's been about, is wringing the neck out of the cars, and they need to last, but it shouldn't be about endurance sort of thing, which it basically comes down to. If you're kind of expected, you have to run the very next day with your 1,000 horsepower modified car. Sometimes you can't. Just simple things stop you from running. Like, technically speaking, this car was not even actually broken. It just kind of fell apart. It sort of self-disassembled one little piece that just had to be put back in. The pulley broke, but nothing else was broken. Just frost plug fell out. Just needed to be put back in. It was just harder than it could be done in one night. Just couldn't. I didn't have the energy to do that. If I was 20, I probably would have done it. Wouldn't be a problem, but I'm not 20. Right. Hey, thanks for watching. Our next round's at Hampton Down, so I'll get it there and test it. Otherwise, it'll go on the dyno and we'll run it do 2 or 3 power runs. I'm going to put a pressure sensor on the cooling system, and then we'll know immediately if we do have a problem. And at that point, we're kind of stuffed, because I can't afford to build this box there somewhere. I can't afford the time and the money to build the new motor right now. So, very good. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bro. you.